Greeks and the Romans. What do we know about them? How did they run their civilizations? And what led to their inevitable downfalls? Today we will take a close individual look at both of these civilizations to answer those questions, and maybe along the way we may be able to understand what it was like to live during those times. Let's take our first look at the Greeks. Just to give perspective, the Greeks inhabited the Balkan Peninsula, which includes the area that is today Greece. When we look at the evolution of Greece in terms of its people, we begin with the Minoans. Located in Crete, which was the cradle of early Greek civilization, the Minoans, led by King Minos, were mostly traders. The Mycenaeans occupied mainland Greece about 2000 BCE, becoming rivals to the Minoans about 1800 BCE, and eventually took over the Cretan civilization about 1450 BCE. The Mycenaeans were the first people of early Greek civilization to actually speak Greek. They were sea traders and had a warrior culture. It was during this time that the Trojan War took place, inspiring epics such as the Iliad and the Odyssey, which are still relevant today. Their decline was brought about by sea raiders. Their fall was also in part brought about by the Dorian invaders from the north. This was a time with a low level of culture. No writing has been found from this time. It's referred to as the Dark Ages. In the middle of the 8th century BCE, the development of writing brought us out of the Dark Ages. The main thing to know about the Greeks is that they were not one big united civilization. The Greeks were separated into many city-states, also called a polis. The polis consisted of two levels. The Acropolis, the highest point, contained a temple to the gods, and the second level was the walled main city. The polis was first governed by a monarchy, then it shifted to noble landowners, then to a middle class, and eventually led to a democracy. In the end, democracy was born because of tyrants and their abuses of power, which led to revolts and overthrowings. The two most prevalent city-states of ancient Greece were Athens and Sparta. Let's start with Sparta. This was definitely a predominant military society. Boys were prepared for the army at birth, and the retirement age from the military was 60. The boys were encouraged to steal to provide for themselves as they were growing up, and mothers were expected to produce healthy sons. The weak children were abandoned to die. The women in Spartan society could inherit property, but they had to obey their husbands and their fathers. Spartan society had no care for wealth or cultural achievement. Trade was forbidden. Now we take our second look at Athens. Originally an aristocracy, the people were unhappy, so they became a democracy. The Acropolis contained the Parthenon, the temple to Athena. Athens traded grapes, olives, and figs. The women in Athenian culture were not involved in public life and had little to no education. Citizenship was severely restricted and only men could participate in the government. Ironically, it is considered a democracy even though they had slaves. Let's take a look at a few important people. Draco wrote the first laws. Though they didn't work, they addressed business and property issues, and they began debt slavery. Solon was appointed archon, chief official. He was given the power to make any changes necessary in order to fix problems. He outlawed debt slavery and encouraged export of wine and olive oil. Pisistratus helped farmers by giving them loans and land taken from nobles. He established building projects to give the poor jobs. This gave them a larger voice in the government and further weakened the aristocracy. Lastly, Cleisthenes established a council of 500. Members were chosen from among the citizens, breaking up the power of the nobility. The assembly was established as a true legislature, lawmaking body. The result was direct democracy in which the people controlled the government. There are many names we hear, but we don't necessarily know where they come from. Here are some of the people that truly influenced Hellenic culture: Archimedes, Hippocrates, Pythagoras, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Sophocles, Euripides, Aeschylus, and Aristophanes. Greek religion was polytheistic. They believed their gods and goddesses lived on Mount Olympus and that their gods could take human form. Each city-state had its own god and goddess, and they held annual festivals in honor of them. Educated by Aristotle, Alexander the Great was a great military commander. He was able to conquer the Greece and Persian empires. This marked the first time that Greece was ever unified. His greatest achievement was the spreading of Greek culture. The term Hellenic culture refers to the blend of Greek, Persian, Egyptian, and Indian cultures. Alexandria, a city in North Africa, was the center of Hellenic learning and trade. Now we will look at the Romans. The Roman people were located on the Italian peninsula. There were less barriers and it was easier to unify than Greece. By legend, Rome was founded by Romulus and Remus, twin brothers who were raised by wolves. The Greeks to the south greatly influenced Rome, as it is seen with their mythologies. Around 509 BCE, Rome established a republic to prevent any one person from becoming too powerful. Rome was led by 2 consuls and the Senate. In times of war, a 6-month dictator took over. The classes of Rome consisted of the few wealthy patricians and the majority of the population, the common people known as the plebeians. The laws of the 12 tables gave many rights to the plebeian class. The concept of Roman law was innocent until proven guilty, the right to defend oneself, and careful examination by a judge. Rome conquered all of Italy in 270 BCE. Diplomacy and an effective army made it possible. Armies were called legions and consisted of 5,000 men. The Romans treated their conquered people with justice as long as they paid taxes and sent soldiers and acknowledged Roman leadership and gods. The Romans let them keep their customs, money, and government. This created support for Rome among the conquered people. Roman soldiers were posted throughout the Republic and military roads linked provinces. After the Romans conquered Italy, they began to conquer the area around the Mediterranean Sea. The expansion led to conflicts with Carthage, the Phoenician city-state in North Africa, one of the most powerful trading cities in the Mediterranean Sea. The result of these conflicts were the Punic Wars. The outcomes of the 3 Punic Wars are as follows. 1. Rome wins Sicily, Corsica, and Sardinia. 2. Hannibal and his army attack Rome from the north on army elephants. Rome attacks Carthage. Hannibal is defeated in Carthage. 3. Rome sacks and burns Carthage, enslaves or kills survivors, and pours salt on the land so it is forever barren. After the Punic Wars, Rome adopts the policy of imperialism. Conquests bring riches to Rome, and the result is a new wealthy class of Romans. They build large estates called latifunda, worked by slaves captured from expansion. This creates many social problems for Rome. Latifundas hurt small farmers. They cannot compete. The gap between the rich and the poor widens. The results are riots. This begins the decline of the Roman Republic. Reforms of the Gracchus brothers were aimed at helping the poor. In 133 BCE, Tiberius was not successful. His brother Gaius, however, was successful at carrying out his brother's reforms 10 years later. The Roman Senate did not support the brothers' reforms and conspired to have them killed. This led to a civil war over power. Julius Caesar emerged from the chaos as a leader. Julius Caesar was a military commander. He dominated politics with the other general Pompey. He left Rome to conquer Gaul, France. Pompey turned against him while he was gone and persuaded the Senate to order Caesar home without his army. Caesar refuses. He led his army across the Rubicon River to Rome. Crushing Pompey, he stops the rebellions along the Mediterranean. Senate appoints him dictator for life. Caesar's enemies fear he will declare himself king of Rome. To save the Republic, they kill him when he comes to the Senate. His death plunges Rome back into a civil war. Mark Antony, a friend of Caesar, and Octavian, his grandnephew, struggle for power. Octavian wins. Octavian coming to power signifies the end of the 500-year-old Roman Republic and the emergence of the Roman Empire. Octavian wins the power struggle after Caesar's death. He becomes the first emperor of Rome. He calls himself Princeps, the first citizen. Senate declares him Augustus. He creates reforms to bring back stability and expand the empire. Pax Romana. 100 years of peace and prosperity from the rule of the 5 good emperors. A series of good and bad emperors followed. Caligula made a horse a general. Nero sung while Rome burned, and Marcus Aurelius was the last great emperor. Pax Romana ended in 180 AD. 100 years of turmoil followed. Bread and circuses were the entertainment provided by the emperor to pacify the city's restless mobs. Attempt at reform. Diocletian divides the emperor. The east was the wealthier Greek-speaking portion, and the west was the poor Latin-speaking portion. He controlled the east and held absolute power. A co-emperor controlled the west. Visigoths sacked Rome in 410 AD. After the Romans conquered Judea, the Jews rebelled. The Romans destroyed Jerusalem, scattering the Jews. Amongst the turmoil, a new religion emerged, led by a Jew named Jesus. This began Christianity. Jesus is seen as a threat to the Jewish priests and as a revolutionary to the Romans. In 29 AD, he is arrested and crucified. Followers like Paul and Peter continue to spread teachings and established Christian communities, churches, throughout the empire. Jews that believed Jesus was the Messiah became the first Christians. The Romans began persecuting the Christians because they refused to honor the Roman gods and the emperor. The Christians became martyrs for their faith. In 313 AD, Constantine ends persecution with the Edict of Milan. He becomes a Christian on his deathbed. In 392 AD, Christianity becomes the official religion of Rome.